Hello everyone, we're back with the panel. I'll briefly introduce them, and we have our own questions, and we have some quite amusing questions that you guys have submitted. I'll introduce them in the order I've got them. The man who taught me about funky music so many years ago, and still one of the hardest working DJs in town, Murray Cammick. The DJ outside the clubs, the DJ where the bands play, who was described in one interview as being, and I quote, as legendary for her incredible dress sense and her dangerously hot sex appeal, as for her sterling music taste, Tina Turntables.
I didn't like that.
The keeper of the calm before the storm, and your man until all hours at Ink Bar for the past 16 years. He's not leaving just yet.
10, actually.
10. Oh, I'm sticking with 16.
16 years.
Yeah, 16. 16 works better for me. And of course, the man with the rhythm selection for the past quarter century, DJ Dubhead. Welcome them all, please. I'll get this one out of the way first because I think it's a frivolous question, but it's a funny one.
And Aroha, of course.
Aroha.
How?
Sorry.
Yes.
You can slap me if you like. This question, I think I know who submitted this. Do you have any shapeshifter? No, we'll move on.
Yes.
Actually, if he was really up with the play, he would have requested 660.
Oh. Yeah, you're bringing it down now. Aroha, I'm actually going to start with you because there was one question. I loved that interview, but there was one question I wanted to ask. Your mum had all these records. What were her records? And did they, did they have anything to do with you being a DJ?
A little bit. I mean, I stole quite a few of her records when I left home, but heaps of her records, they got sold by my dad for drugs, which was kind of stink. So she lost a lot of that music, but the stuff that I grew up with was The Clash, Iggy Pop, Nina Hagen, that kind of stuff, yeah. Nice. That's what she was into.
Murray, what was the first time that you actually played out as a DJ? Because I'm not sure whether, when we worked together a long, long time ago, I'm not sure whether you'd ever actually done it.
I'm not too sure, but something like Zanzibar or something, where you used to listen to your records on a phone, but I do recall when I was a bit angry in the office, I'd piss off some of the staff by playing Donna Summer's Bad Girls Hot Stuff repeatedly because I'd hired people who just didn't like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there were some other... this is back at Rip It Up, back in the very old days, and there was someone else who worked in the same building who actually threatened to kill me if I played Shannon's Let the Music Play again.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, no, that was Hal Chapman, and I played it again. Pat, which is your real name, Dubhead, let's be frank, you were a massive goth.
Indeed.
And so was Stinky Jim. What's the connection there?
Oh, it was really through punk rock. I think bands like The Clash and The Specials and The Ruts and the fact that they were turned on to reggae as it was happening in the UK for them forced us to listen to reggae, and it was just examining that. In fact, I can put it down to one song, which was A Message to You, Rudy, by The Specials, featuring the late Rico Rodriguez on trombone. He does a fantastic trombone solo in there, just recently passed away, but it was hearing that, I think I was about 15, fifth form at high school, and I heard that on the radio, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is it? It sounded like ancient music, and that was from then on, I'm like, right, I need to investigate this. So after that, Toots and the Maytals, Bob Marley, etc.
So there's no actual connection between goth and being a reggae DJ?
Well, there is. I'd say the connection is through punk rock. It's through Clash. It's through the Clash and all those sort of bands. Because, as Jim has said, this is totally true, is in the 1970s in Britain, when punk rock first sprung up, reggae was this parallel rebel music, and these kids were living in the same neighbourhoods, and there was trash all over the streets because there was a major strike, so the rubbish wasn't being collected, and they were talking about the social situations. So the reggae kids, the West Indians, hung out with the punks. There's the connection.
Professor, you came to dance music through quite a different route. You were a hard rock and heavy metal fan.
Am.
Still. You really couldn't tell by looking at you, to be honest.
I reek tech house.
You've been there on K Road till all hours for a
And I
long
work at
time.
Inkbar as well.
Well, what's it like now? Has it changed? Who's your crowd? Are they people who used to go 10 years ago? Are the kids going there?
Funny you mentioned that. The last probably 6 months, we're seeing a huge resurgence. A lot of people coming, young, and they're all coming to see, funnily enough, a 51-year-old DJ by the name of Greg Churchill. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not Greg Churchill. And funnily enough, like Dubhead, like Stinky Jim, punk was his beginnings, and you still hear that sort of origin in his music, and ideally you'll hear an electronic form of where someone comes from.
So what makes him special? Because a lot of people pay tribute to him.
He's probably one of the kindest human beings around, up there with Bevan Keys, and he doesn't look like his music. His music is dangerous. He's a sweet soul, and I've got him on to drinking chartreuse as of late, so, you know, what more? Yeah.
Tina, how did you start? What was the first time you played out?
I guess I started as what mutual friend Andy Moore said, a glorified stereo Nazi, like parties, that sort of thing. It's funny because I come from punk background as well. Like where I came to soul was through punk. So I guess just through doing parties, and I think the first things, I guess, playing between bands like Dirt Bombs, which led to other things, and then I got a regular spot at Dock Bar, and then that led to other things.
So, yeah, you kind of had a background of playing in places where DJs don't usually play.
Yeah, I guess that came from John Baker and DJ Skinny, who I went out with shortly. They, like, for me, whenever I saw DJs, I went, they play electronic music, and I'm not really into electronic music, so there's no place for me, even though I was like a massive geek and had been collecting records since I was 13. It wasn't until I saw those guys playing between bands that I went, this is the sort of shit that I like, you know. And DJ Nettie Page was playing soul and that sort of thing, and there was like crossover. So I saw my place, and then there was like Matthew Cooley had the DJ nights on Wednesdays, and so I saw the kind of alt version of that as well. So yeah, I mean, I select more than I mix. I don't do anything fancy. I just play songs. So yeah, that's where I started.
I saw you nodding when Aroha was describing her horror harassment experience. Does that happen in the kind of venues you play as well? Has that happened to you?
That has happened to me. I have quite an amusing story involving Matthew Crawley.
And some lawyers.
Well, there was one at Dock. I don't tend to play whenever I felt unsafe at a certain place. I stopped playing there, basically. And the places that I play, I feel very looked after, and so that's a big factor. But this particular night was Halloween. All hell breaks loose on Halloween, as everyone knows. Matthew Crawley was dressed in a bear suit. He had a fluffy bear hat on, this is important, and a fur cape, I think it was a blanket tied around him, and a guy decided to come over and talk to me, and he grabbed my boob, and I yelled at him. This guy was massive, and Matthew, dressed up in this stupid bear suit, basically proceeded to, he turned ferocious and just yelled and pushed him out of the bar, and the whole dance floor basically turned against this guy and pushed him out of the club. So had a pleasing kind of conclusion.
Obviously, you guys aren't going to have your boobs grabbed, but I wonder whether you've had, what's your crappiest DJ experience with bad punters?
Well, my favourite is, well, not favourite, but my choice is doing a wedding. Now, I don't do a whole lot of weddings or 21sts these days, but back then I had a couple of very good friends who were big fans of the radio show who insisted that I play at their wedding reception, and I said, listen, you know what I'm going to play, right? And they're like, yes, that's what we want. And I'm like, what about your family and friends? They're going to be all good with the Roots reggae wedding, you know. Yes, no problem. Someone threw an artichoke at me. Now, here's the thing, it wasn't an artichoke that was served up on a platter, it was a whole artichoke that was part of the dried flower arrangement. So it's, you know, it's the spiky thing, right? And I'm up there and I just caught this blur in my peripheral vision, right? Just I ducked at just the right moment and I'm like, oh, yeah, stuff this, I'm not going to do weddings anymore. If they're going to throw artichokes, you know, that's serious shit.
Glenn, the professor, you nodded the moment that Dub said weddings.
Bro, I had the same experience. I get a phone call on my radio show, so I threw this artichoke at Dub. They're like, man, we really want to have you play at our wedding. I'm like, I know you want to, and your wife potentially wants to, but you know, you've got elder family, your younger family, and they're like, no, they're all familiar. And I took hundreds of records. I took as many CDs as I could muster, and it was fucking horrible. Seriously, like, talk about trying to please everyone at once. So, can you play some rock and roll for the oldies? So I put on a bit of Elvis Presley, and then someone comes up, who wants to hear Elvis Presley? Play something for the young ones. So I go chuck on some Black Sabbath. Oh, hang on, they're not young ones, but yeah. So in the end, I pleased myself, and yeah. That's ultimate. That's the only way you're going to guarantee one person in the whole room is going to enjoy the whole night.
Murray, what's your horror story?
I don't think I've had anything too crazy. You know, just when the decks here were on wheels, and I had someone fall on the system, which I sort of thought falling is an accident, so they were not ejected because I wouldn't identify them. But just silly things like that, and rain and wind at Racket Bar. You know, nothing too serious really. I've only ever done one wedding and ended up with an argument with the bridegroom's youngest brother because I wouldn't play "Love Don't Live Here" anymore at a wedding. And
you really?
That was okay. Kerry Brown and. Good call. Kerry's wife came over to me and said, why are you arguing with my brother? And I said, I won't play Love Don't Live Here anymore because Madonna had a hit with it. And she said, play it.
You got any other stories for us, Aroha?
I mean, you heard my worst one before, but most of my bad stories involve weddings as well, and I just don't do them anymore unless they're for friends. But there was one wedding I played at where the bride and groom were, you know, very clear on what they wanted. They said, look, don't worry about this too much. I said, trust me, there's drunkles. There's always going to be a drunkle who wants something, yeah, that's what I call them, in particular. And they're like, okay, well, maybe play some of this kind of stuff. And it was all going well. And then as the night turned, it became quite clear to me that everyone was on drugs. And
except you.
Well, the young people at the wedding were on drugs, and they started coming and going, can you play some drum and bass? And I was like, sure, I just don't know if your mum would really be into that. They started jumping in the pool, and the water from the pool was like splashing all over my gear, and I was like, I've got to get out of here. Noise control came, they were like, fuck noise control, and they just wanted me to keep playing. I was like, I am leaving. Yeah, it wasn't that awful, but weddings are bad.
Murray, there's a question I want to ask you, because we were talking, when I talked with AJ, we talked about formats becoming more open because of digital music and because you've got the whole world's music on your laptop. I'm impressed with the fact that you actually play quite a number of different types of set and you own all the vinyl. Is that hard work doing that? How do you do that?
I just have sort of different interests, you know, because I like soul and funk, but then a lot of reggae is funky too, you know, and I like, you know, Las Vegas, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and stuff like that. So I do that occasionally. So, and it's good. I also like that. I think when you have a DJ, it'd be nice to think that someone's thinking, what the fuck's he going to play next, you know, and to actually have a variety, you know. So I do like playing new tracks, and I believe white people can be funky too. So I'm prepared, you know, I like playing sort of either retro or modern versions of Brit bands like Charlatans or whatever, who have a real groove to them.
How many records do you have?
I have no idea, but I've lost weight moving them in the last few weeks.
You've moved. I remember Simon Grigg actually emailed me and said, Murray's just told me he has to move house. And it was like the most traumatic thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah, today's the final day, but I've got sort of an extension, but I managed to get 10 minutes of cleaning in before the landlord arrived from Queensland, and 10 minutes was not enough.
Well, I'm so glad you could join us. Esther, let's go to some questions from the audience.
Let's go to some, listener questions, watcher questions. This is for the whole panel. How do you deal with fake, in quote marks, DJs, in brackets, knob twiddlers? Should they be called out? Also, do technologies today promote this inauthenticity?
Start with you.
They can potentially promote this inauthenticity. Is that a word? Fantastic. It's been a bit of a bone of contention in my head. Like pressing a sync button, that's not mixing, but ultimately what really matters is the dance floor, and whether you transition from one track to another by pressing a button or by carefully manipulating the turntables or what have you, none of that matters. It's all about selection, and if you're playing the right tunes, ultimately technology has got nothing to do with it.
Murray, thoughts?
Murray?
What are we thinking about?
No more weddings.
Inauthentic DJs.
I'll speak to this. I think it's a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes in that, you know, it's down to the crowd, and a so-called fake DJ won't be able to consistently rock a crowd, and the people will see. They'll know. It's down to the tunes that you're playing, and no amount of sort of gadgets or trickery are going to cover the fact that the songs you're playing are crap.
What if you're playing to a fake crowd?
Virtual crowd. But I do. I think, you know, real DJ skills come playing every weekend to crowds and rocking them. If you're not a DJ that has that skill, it's apparent in your selection. It's apparent in the songs that you're playing, and it doesn't matter how you put them together or mix them or whatever. It's the material that you're showcasing, and people can see that. Crowds, you know, they're not dumb. They're like, oh, he's playing that bloody Michael Jackson again.
I'm going to be a little bit more generous and say that everyone starts somewhere. You know, like I know that I got judged hard for using iTunes when I first started. I use vinyl and my laptop. I use both, but I don't know who's fake and who's real. I mean, okay, if you're not doing it consistently, and I agree with what Dub just said, and I just think sometimes you need to start somewhere, and sometimes the technology that you're using is a bit shit, but you grow if you do it consistently, and if you can read a crowd, if you have empathy and you know music and you have all that stuff.
It's kind of like musicians as well, isn't it? Like sometimes, like I've only done a few shows out of BFM, and it's hard. You know, being a DJ it's difficult. Like you have to read the crowd, you have to pick the music according to their mood and what's going to sound good together, and you've got infinite choices. But you could say the same thing for musicians who are just starting out and being not so great. So, shall we go to another one? Yeah. This is if there was any DJ you would like to see live tonight, who would it be and why? Just quick fire.
It's easy for me. Manuel Bundy, number one. And it's all about selection. It's like, seriously, for that guy, apart from the fact that he mixes incredibly well, it's his tunes. It's his broad-ranging tunes. This guy can play house, drum and bass, hip-hop, funk, jazz, soul, reggae, any style, but he will play the best tunes of those styles.
I'm going to answer this one too. John Morales, because I love disco, and a guy called Left Side Wobble, who is my age and just seems to like all the music I do. And yeah, I like him.
I'm going to say DJ Harvey. I saw him play once in Detroit, and he is just a very eclectic style of DJ. Plays a lot of techno, a lot of house, Balearic kind of stuff, and is always surprising. And I don't know if he's ever actually played here. Yeah.
You're pointing to me. I'm going to say Paul Weller. He has the most amazing collection of soul, and he's introduced me to so much music that I'm incredibly grateful for. He introduced me to D'Angelo. I would never have considered that guy based on their abs, and it's all distracting. But when I heard him on a compilation album that he put together, I just went, "Oh fuck, this song is amazing." So yeah, he would be the person I would.
Probably one of the British Northern Soul DJs. I think, is it Richard Searling or one of those? Or might have the name wrong.
I really don't know. Probably the Professor. Because he plays what I really enjoy. Yeah.
Good answer.
It's the truth.
And what equipment would you recommend for someone just starting out? Are CDJs still relevant? Aroha, do you use CDJs?
I use CDJs when I'm working in a club, and at home I have a Serato controller, which I have just because it's fun and it's got cool buttons and stuff I can play around with and just sort of noodle out. I think when you're starting out, it really depends on what you've got. Like, if your mum has a whole record collection, use that.
Yeah.
You know? Get a shitty mixer and just muck around. If you want something that's entry level, go with software because you've got an iTunes library, and get a cool little controller. Yeah.
Just a basic mixer?
Yeah. Or just like an all-in-one controller with the two little decks and your controls.
So you think it is actually important to have that gear at home?
Yes and no. I mean, I've got lots of friends who they don't have any equipment, and their practice is the gigs that they do.
Cause, the reason I ask is that with modern CDJs, you can literally turn up with a flash drive in your pocket or on your keyring, and you've got 2,000 songs on it, and you put it in the CDJ, and that's it, you're DJing. Is that a good or a bad thing?
I mean, it makes for no luggage. I mean, because we went from, having bags and bags of records and, you needing to have a work visa and to slip past, customs because you've got all these records, and they're like, well, why are you bringing all these records somewhere? Whereas now, you've got things like Serato, and that makes life a lot easier. You've got a laptop, but even, if you've just got two USBs, that simplifies things for a lot of people. Just two little things, plug them in, headphones, easy.
Not if you lose your keys.
Oh, one more crowd one for the moment? Oh, did you have an answer?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about format because it seems to be a pretty big thing, and people do sort of get hung up on format, just like that get hung up on mixing technique and things. It's really all down to the music. I mean, I'm a record guy, and I've always been a record guy. And it doesn't mean I won't ever change. Like when CDs came along, I started playing CDs on the radio. I don't play CDs live, but I'm still a record guy, and I'm not against digital technology or MP3s. And nearly all the DJs who are my friends in Auckland and the guys that I respect and admire, they're all on Serato, and it hasn't changed anything for them. I was talking to P Money before, and it's like, sure, there'll be a little transition period while they're getting used to the new digital format, but they're still playing great music, and really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a record or a CD or a WAV file. If you're playing great music and you're putting it together in a really good way, that's it at the end of the day.
One more from the floor.
I think we've pretty much covered all of them. There's a few questions about what's more important, skill or style, and I think we've covered that. There's one in here about cassettes. Do you still bump cassettes? What is that even? I think I'm too young to know what that means. Is that dubbing? And do you still collect cassettes?
Well, you see, that's a format question again, and it's like the mini disc or the DAT tape. People have even forgotten those things. But actually, one of the best DJs I've seen in the last couple of years played here at Concord Dawn, and his name is Amazing Tapes from Africa. Oh, yeah. Right. And the reason being is that the period of African music that he really likes, the format was strictly cassette. They didn't have records, they didn't have CDs, it was all on cassette. And he DJs from 2 cassette decks. And it doesn't matter because it's really exciting music, and that's the format. That's the only format he can get that music in. So again, it doesn't matter. That's his format. Although I don't know many people who do play cassettes at gigs. That said,
can I just add to what you were saying about format? I do think if you are using digital files, it's important to use a certain quality of digital file. Because it sounds really bad if you're playing a 160 kbps. Like, God, it just sounds bad. I mean, you might have a shitty sound system and it's not going to show that up, but so many people are coming up to me and going, you can get it on YouTube.
No self-respecting DJ would play off YouTube.
But the average consumer doesn't know the difference. But if you're a DJ, you should play high-quality audio files.
What, so ideally WAV files, FLAC files?
Ideally WAV files, AF, yeah.
I'm going to ask a philosophical question that might actually fall flat, but I'm interested in the idea. Everyone has talked about how the key thing for a DJ is to read a room. And implicit in that is a degree of empathy. Mm-hmm. To actually, you've actually got to be aware of how people are feeling and be able to respond to it. I wonder how any of you feel about it. Do you agree with that? And also, does that kind of empathy actually serve you in other walks of life?
Yes. One thing I find with a lot of the new DJs, which is maybe why people like Greg Churchill do get such a huge following, is they don't so much read a room as step up there and play what they consider to be the best track. So there's no warm-up style, there's no appreciation for the fact that you've just walked into a club and I want to be taken on a journey. But it is a real thing, man. You know, like you need to be warmed up to the point where you'll accept some music. And for me, prime example of that is actually playing here with the Devil's Jukebox and my good friend Selector Sam. Beginning of the night, we'd play funk and soul and blues, and gradually we lift the tempo. And on one night, we were looking at each other, man, we'd done the devil's fucking work. We had ladies on the tables screaming their fucking heads off to Slayer, right, south of heaven. And the reality is there's no way in the world they would have done that at 8 o'clock in the evening. But we took them there. And so, yeah.
So it's not just reading the crowd, it's taking the crowd with you.
It's taking the crowd with you, but understanding what it's like to be just listening to what you're doing, yeah.
And one of the things I think people forget is, first and foremost, DJs are music fans. They're punters. And we all go and watch other DJs play. We all go to gigs, and we all have our favourite DJs, or we just go to support our friends who are DJs. So you're in the crowd, and you're seeing what's happening with the room. We wouldn't dream of going up to the DJ and asking them to play a particular song. We'll go up to the DJ and say hi, so they know we're here. But we're music fans, so it's very easy when you are a DJ and you're looking out at a room to feel that empathy, to go, I am that guy down the back of the bar sitting on my Heineken waiting to be moved. Because we all are. We all are that guy. So when you're sort of... Or girl. When you're up in front and you're in charge, you're actually thinking of that guy down the back of the room.
So literally, who is, and maybe you can all answer, who is the audience for what you do in Auckland at the moment? Are they old? Are they young? Are they engaged? Are they music fans even?
I work at, bars, restaurants where it's largely background music, so I'm not really dealing with a dance floor, even though I do like dance music. So it is bizarre, but Oogie Woogie Boogie's a good restaurant song, or whatever it is. You do have... there is that empathy thing, for sure, because after the Bledisloe Cup, I do Monday nights at Britomart Country Club, and all the men had spent their money, and the crowd's like 100% women, so I am thinking, what will these women like? Or, I'm not one of these DJs who wants to be 100% rare groove and play things you've never heard. So I'm standing there thinking, do women like No Woman, No Cry, by Bob Marley? They do, apparently.
Who doesn't like that song?
Dominant verse or chorus.
I mean, I'm not a particularly experienced DJ, but I have always found playing what the women like is actually, if in doubt, play what the ladies like.
The reality is you get the woman on the dance floor, you got the man on the dance floor.
I totally agree. I remember when I was sort of in the middle of the drum and bass scene in Wellington when I was younger, and when that whole Brazilian kind of happy, sort of fruity sort of drum and bass came through, and all the girls started going on the dance floor, and then all the boys were like, yeah, cool, sweet, let's go out and dance with them.
So do women still run the dance floor, you think?
Totally. Yeah.
I'm going to have to counter this.
Oh, okay.
As is my want. I find as a female DJ, I have to flop my dick out occasionally and prove myself to just get some respect, because otherwise...
Did not see that coming.
Well, otherwise, if I'm playing nothing but Pat Benatar and like shit that's gonna like get like women dancing, then I'm not gonna get any fucking respect. So I find, as someone that suffers from anxiety, and I think that helps with DJing because you actually care what people like want. But I just find that you've got to balance those two things, like anxiety, arrogance, like I know what's going to work right now, and empathy. I think it's a combination of all of those things.
Anything to add, Pat?
Yeah, actually, I've got a joke.
Okay.
I saw this. I saw this.
I'm all ears.
I saw this on the internet, and I don't want to be genreist or diss someone's favourite style, but it did make me chuckle. It said, "Opinions are like dubstep demos. I don't want to hear yours."
We better wrap up soon, but I wonder whether each of you could give us an example of a go-to record that you play often and is just never fails, the one you like.
Spotty Yoddy Dopalicious by Outkast.
Yes.
My favourite song of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the records I play when I don't know what the fuck's going on, and and by the time
in your life or in the gig, Murray?
No, the gig, and so anything from that Visioneers album, whatever it was called, what was it called? I don't know. From a couple of years back, they've got a whole lot of tracks that you could come out of one mood and into another. But my favourite one of the last year, also for When You're Lost, is George Soul's Get Involved,
I haven't thought of one yet.
I've got a follow-up, actually, to Visioneers. I've been relying heavily on Odyssey. He's got an instrumental album at the moment, which sits perfectly for me because I like going from R&B, like early R&B, through hip-hop and punk, and it kind of sits in this beautiful kind of middle space where I go, oh, shit, I don't know what to do right now. I could go either way. And, so similar to the Visioneers.
For me, I'm not a DJ who plays Prince or Michael Jackson, and there's nothing against Prince or Michael Jackson, awesome musicians, but if I sort of look around and it's not happening, for me it's James Brown. You play James Brown, there is no one alive who cannot get down to James Brown.
That's true.
Okay, so I've just thought of mine.
Yep.
My go-to track, if the crowd isn't working, Downtown Brown, the New York moving, which samples Michael Jackson, with the beat it,
Mine is Felix the House Cat, Devon Dazzle, and the Neon Fever. Every track is awesome. You should all go home and listen to it. What's yours, Russell?
Mine, oddly enough, is the one I almost always play, because I don't really play club sets because I can't do it. But I play parties, and actually a really great song to start the set with is Cockney Rebels Make Me Smile, which is a really brilliant 1970s classic pop song from a group that didn't make that many pop songs. And it just... people don't know what it is, and they recognise it, and everyone literally starts to smile. It's a really nice song to start things with. Nice. I think we may have come to a natural conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a really fun day. Thank you very much. The weather was a worry, but the weather came through. Thank you, Niwa. Fuck you, Met Service. Honestly, I got up this morning and it was raining, and I looked at the Met Service website and it said showers all afternoon. I thought, fuck you. But it didn't happen, and you've been really great. Thank you. It's been really fun. Please thank our panellists. Cheers.
Big thanks to Orcon
Yeah,
for sponsoring.
I was about to get to that. Thank you, Orcon, and in particular Quentin Bright down here, who is just the most lovely man to work with. He really is.
Thanks, Quentin.
I suggest things and he goes, okay. I'll juggle the numbers. That's his favourite phrase. So thanks very much, and thank you to Orcon, and thank you to Matthew Crawley. Cheers.